to, if it's appropriate, to talk about that Amish farmer, because we saw the
Sure.
picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay. There are a couple different, things we like to talk about with the farming community. Often they'll be interested in fishing, or they'll have an interest in fishing for their kids who are going to inherit their property someday. The Elk Creek project, we actually went out and did electroshocking. So in the stream shocking to show what fish were there. We took the university students out and actually did a demonstration for the entire Amish schoolhouse. And we had a couple landowners come up and talk to us about projects out of that. Some of it's legacy planning. The Amish landowner that we're working with currently has some maple trees that are in production for syrup, but he wanted additional ones, so some for his kids to tap 20 years down the road. So part of his buffer is actually a sugar bush. We have some blueberry plantings in there, some apple trees, so sort of different products they can use. Often it's a conversation about, I don't want to take this land completely out of production. I want to get some sort of income, or even if it's just getting products for them to use in their own home, that'll often be enough of a trade-off there. And working with the Amish community specifically, they often don't want to accept federal, like any funding from state or federal agencies. So a nonprofit like us can come in and sort of funnel the money and take care of everything. We'll pay for all the tree plantings and everything. And they just sign to say that they won't rip it out for 25 years.
Thank you.
Yeah. There are income incentives through some of these programs that will often entice farmers, especially, this past year has been a big year for flooding conversations. How can I install, like these trees will obviously pull a lot of water out of the system. Can I do streamside plantings to help dry out my upland areas, my crop fields, that sort of stuff. So those are conversations we've been having too. So it's just sort of how can it benefit their farming operation. Often when I go out to a farm, I'm not there to sort of give a pitch. I'm there, we walk around and talk about the main goals of the farm, what they're trying to do, what issues they've been facing, and then I try to figure out if there's any management practices that can help address some of those resource concerns.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Adrian, for the live stakes, how long does it take before the tree does what it's supposed to do, and is beneficial to the runoff?
Yeah.
How big does it have to be, or how old?
Oh, that's a good question. So they say to reach the full sort of nutrient sediment reduction potential, a tree should be about 5 to 7 years old. So you're starting to get those benefits when it's a year old, but really to get the full benefits, it takes a while. You're literally waiting for a tree to grow. But what's kind of cool, these live stakes especially, they don't need a lot of the sheltering stuff that we provide with our other trees. Like normally, everybody thinks of the tree tube forest with installing a buffer. Like that's what people automatically go to. Oftentimes it'll be better to just install live stakes at a high density. I've been testing this out. I have a hunting club that I've been working with right next to this Amish guy's property. They bait in deer, so this is like the perfect place to try things out, that like if it'll work here, it'll work anywhere. And the deer don't touch the density that we're working in. So it's pretty cool. After 6 months of growth, my live stakes were this tall. So, and they only have that much showing above the ground when you actually install them. So you get really jumpstart the growth period.
I have seen in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania, they're plastic round things with holes in them, and they're planted, they're supposed to be the tree plantings to protect the tree, but I've seen them like many, many years in the same place, and there's never a tree growing.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So this is what
can you
gives.
address that? Like,
Sure.
Have we wasted a lot of money doing that kind of thing, or whatever?
Sure. So these tree plantings, you can't just plant them and let them go. They need continual maintenance. And a lot of the funding programs put that back on the landowner. Some conservation districts will have money in place that they can actually help the landowner with the maintenance. But sort of, I get this a lot. The tree tubes give plantings a bad rap, especially if they haven't been maintained. Like after a three-year window, you should have about 70% survival is pretty good with your buffer. You're competing with deer, you're competing with voles, the little rodents that eat the bottom of your trees. So that's why the tubes go into the ground. You have bears that knock over the tubes. You have a lot of different stuff going on there. So I think There's also this conversation of what different types of tubes you can use. So the ones you said are the ones that have the pretty big holes in them to let more like wind through, so the tree becomes sort of more resistant to the elements. Like one of the issues with the green tubes, the solid green tubes, is that your tree ends up being really weak and can blow over really fast. So people will often cut those open and sort of let them sort of flap there for a while to actually harden the bark on the tree so it stands upright by itself without the tube and the stake. I think it's really a reflection of how much maintenance is put into the buffer, and there's a lot of conversations about that right now as Pennsylvania goes through this new watershed implementation plan for funds in place to actually help them maintain those buffers, whether it's through conservation district programming or student volunteers, like finding some sort of mechanism to help a landowner with that. Yeah.
Anybody else? All right, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Did I understand you to say that you are the only employee in Pennsylvania?
I am, for our organization.
But she's worth 50.
I know. You said that, we're producing 70% of the sediment and there's only one.
So I'm not the only one working on tree
people.
plantings. So Pennsylvania itself, like your local conservation district can do the tree plantings and that sort of thing. My role is just to come up and help create the mapping. That's sort of the new piece. And then try to figure out how to weave it into project design, implementation, how to engage landowners in that conversation. So I sort of work with the existing infrastructure for doing these projects to figure out how to do more, how to do better, like that sort of thing.
Well, it just seems to me, when you show the map of the whole thing, in Pennsylvania has this huge swath all the way down
Yeah,
through the middle.
43 counties, yeah.
Yes, I mean, I think that we need more than one person.
We do. We've been trying to fundraise to get me a partner in crime.
Can I just comment on that a little bit? She's not the only one working on this. I mean, she's the only one for the Chesapeake Conservancy.
I know.
But one thing you've learned working at this is there are all kind of people that have to work together to make all this stuff happen. Our conservation district in Union County is doing a lot of work. We've recently done things along Lord Connolly Road, parallels 192. Conservation District, with the help of North Central Conservancy and the Fish and Boat Commission, put in some new improvements on the creek. They've also done it on Turk Run. So it's not that she's only one
I know,
Conservancy.
no, that's, there's a lot of
counties.
counties.
But yeah,
Yeah.
pretty important.
Just to expand on that a little bit, I come from a municipal government experience background, and in the last about 4 or 5 years, there are mandates for municipalities to reduce the percentage of sediment that goes into the river, the creeks, etc. Unfortunately, they're unfunded mandates. Like this young lady has some grant money available to help individual property owners. Municipalities have to somehow budget and come up with the money and are required by a certain point in time to come up with a plan to reduce their sediment by a certain percentage. And I don't remember exactly what that is, but it's substantial. Using bioswales, plantings, etc. But you need a plan and it is required. So the fact that Pennsylvania is the biggest culprit in sedimentation going to the Chesapeake Bay, there are programs in place that are required, and everybody is required to work on it. So we're getting there, but it's going to take time.
The borough is having some kind of tree planting